morning after the full moon, or at least I think it was the full moon last night. Maybe tonight's the full moon. But interestingly enough, on full moons, I do not get good sleep. It's rough. It's like waking up is like having a hangover, which I haven't had for a while because I don't drink anymore. Really that much. I mean, I want to be able to drink a couple times a year in solidarity with my friends, but it's not my lifestyle anymore. What I want to talk about today is, I was thinking about it last night. The first time, and the only time, someone said to me, I was 18 at the time, 17 or 18, and I was with my first girlfriend, and the person who was kind of like my foster mom at the time, when I was living on this farm, told me, you don't know what love is. You're not old enough to know what love is. And I didn't have anything to say to that, because, what is love? Like anyone really knows what it is. If we would describe what it feels like. But I want to just talk a little bit about love. It seems like such a general thing, but I'm talking about romantic, activating, passionate love. And one thing I've learned about it through my experience is how potent that can be with the right person. And after you've experienced that once with the right person, it's hard to just really go out and look for it after that, because you know how rare it is and how many years can go by without encountering it. And until you experience it or encounter it happening to yourself, you don't really know just how potent it is. And I've heard people say things like, don't make relationships like it's going to solve all your problems. And I'm not saying this potency of love would solve your problems, but it's so potent, it does heal things. It does. I've seen it in people's lives who they got in a good partnership and things really improved for them. I've seen it firsthand, and I've kind of experienced it, except for, when it's unrequited love, then, that's equally devastating. But there's so much potency there when you actually experience just how profound it can really be. And it can take a lot of relationships, and I wonder if some people go their whole lives without like truly experiencing that level of it. And it does take a certain amount of it takes a certain ability, almost a certain skill, to be able to have that partnership kind of functionality. Way better way of saying dependency. It's like dependency, just not good taste. Bad representation of that potency of love. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but there's definitely codependent love. But I mean, we're codependent with family members and pets too. So is that like, it's almost like just an excuse people use to get out of a relationship, where it's like, they were codependent. And there are people that are overly needy. I've been on both sides of that, where I've been the needy one, and then I've been the one that's like, I feel like this pull from someone that I'm like, I just don't reciprocate that. And yeah, a lot of us have been on both sides of it. It's like part and parcel with this human experience. And it is interesting how a lot of people say, even if you get that profound love experience, then a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but, that's just the honeymoon period. And, over time, just like anything, including substances, there's diminished returns. And we just take it for granted, or whatever happens, we forget how it was before. And that goes into other topics, like, do we really need to be reminded in life of how painful and horrible and like lonely or whatever things can be just to get the contrast? Like my existential argument is, why can't we just remember? If our memory wasn't just wiped on the regular, like over time, it's not like it just happens in a day unless there's some traumatic injury, but things just fade over time. And I mean, I guess I can come to terms with some of that, but I don't like the diminishing aspect of things in general. I really struggle with that. Like, it's really, really tough for me, because a felt presence of love that's like what makes life worth living. And I mean, I have that with friends and family too, but it's only to a certain extent. I wish I could feel more just on the natch. That would be awesome. I mean, couldn't we all agree? It's like, unless you're trying to be some kind of a dark nihilist or something, which you don't really have to work very hard at. That's like, in my biased opinion, kind of a lazy approach to this life. Just floating down the sewage river into complete, like, decrepit, like, I don't know, just decline and falling apart. As a lot of us do, we get carried down the river of turmoil, and we try not to focus on it as much as we can, because we need to stay positive and try to feel good. And to stay positive is to also cope and feel good with our disposition, and just how ubiquitous depressing and struggling things are every year, every winter, for people with seasonal depressive stuff, with people with mental toughness. I mean, heck, today is like a mental toughness day. When I get really tired like this, I'll be watching a YouTube video of someone that says something really heartfelt that's maybe disabled or something like that, and like, I mean, that can be a pretty potent thing, but like, I'll just burst into tears. Not like burst into tears, but I'll just start, I'll just melt. I just don't have as much vitality on these days. Like, feel slightly like blocked, or what's the word? See, I can't even think right now. There's a word I really want to use. I feel inhibited, but I feel like you guys are probably thinking of it. Impaired. That's the word. Impaired. I feel impaired. I feel just slightly dumber on days where I don't rest well, and I don't like. That's a very uncomfortable feeling for me. And gosh, just last night I was just pining over things in my life. This is just a common thing for me. It seems inextricable, unescapable, unavoidable to pine. As much as I redirect myself in a positive way, it always comes back to this grief, this like heartbrokenness over how positive of energy I put into my life, into making these happen, and not even, it's like for selfish reasons, just trying to make things better for myself and others, and just how beat down I've become through things. And yeah, I pick myself up every time, but a lot of that is an internal thing. It's a mental struggle. It's like an impairment. It's the best way I can describe the felt presence, or the felt experience of it in my mind. And I think back on my times in sobriety and just how freaking depressing it was, which is really sad and really makes it tough for me, because if I could somehow like remember something, if feels like there's something that's missing, and if I could just remember it, I could keep my vision on that and manifest that inside me. And I've been yearning for that, like desperate. I hate the word desperate, but it's what it fucking feels like. It's horrible. It's like, and then on top of desperation, there's the loathing of the desperation. It comes in layers. It's like an onion of dystopia, internal dystopia. I can't watch dystopias. I'm just like, I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I can just live my life in the real world and experience dystopia. Like, I don't need to also watch it. Like, I want to watch something fantastical and fun to escape the insipid anathema that is this perpetual suffering. It's just very distasteful to me. It's like, there is a better way to learn things, as I've said in other videos. There's adequate mentorship. There's definitely more going on than just us. We don't understand our bodies and all these things. There's us outside of this. There's other people outside of this. It could be like, if we could just remember, be like, hey man, remember when we signed up for the Earth program? It's like the enterprise of the human enterprise and the Earth experience, and how we had to sign the contract that we would forget everything and it would just be a blank slate, just like a version of us that has no memory of anything. And it's like, that's not compatible with, and not only is it not compatible, but for my own integrity, I refuse. And maybe this is just me being my hubris, which fucking whatever. It's like, it's the hubris I choose to have out of a good aesthetic, and I'm just an aesthetic person like that. Like, I think it's very distasteful to be masochistic, and yes, pain is the only way to learn. It's like, no, you guys need to use your imagination. Like, no offense, but fucking just being frank, like, very frustrating. Like, let's not continue telling ourselves that lie. There is other ways to learn. That's the lie that one of the lies that they perpetuate to keep us here. Like the Archons, the founders of this construct that we're in, the demiurge, the spiritual parasites that just feed on this buffet of whatever it is we are, and we don't understand what we are. Like, it's like science has barely tapped the iceberg, and we don't understand mitosis and how these cellular like forces of nature come about, and like the design and everything. It's like we don't understand feelings and the science of feelings, and there's so many variables. It's like, who can do that math? It's like, we certainly can't. I go too far in this direction, go too far in that direction. It's like a ship in the ocean, like a leaf in the wind. Excuse me. I feel rather decrepit today, but I'm going to an open mic. And that's the thing with drugs. On a final thought, this is another thing I wanted to say. I think there's kind of multiple reasons people do drugs. They want to experience other things, and it can be a trap of addiction. But then there's other people that are just naturally, on the natch, just depressed and just want to feel good. And that's kind of how I went back to using Kratom after I quit for so many years. It helped me not be an alcoholic. It helped me get over that hump. But I don't like Kratom. It's kind of gross. But it does help me feel better and function and not be a total curmudgeon. And it's like everything has an expiration date, so I'll have to quit that too one day. I just want to feel good on the natch, and I work my whole life to do that. And it's not like I don't have days where I do, but it's got to be more than like 2 or 3 days a week. Like, if you combine all the moments, it's not like my days are entirely bad when I have a bad day. But if you were to conglomerate the whole week, there'd probably be there's more of a percentage of mental difficulty and toughness than there is ease and clarity and a natural balanced amount of joy and appreciation and gratitude. I mean, isn't that the place we want to be in and feel good in that and imbibe in that? And I do, with the help of some substances. I'd love to quit smoking too. Yeah, smoking is, it's rather unattractive, but I do it. It probably makes me a little more neurotic, but I don't know. I've come to this place and probably somehow I'll get out of it. But it takes a lot of intention and a little bit of luck. Or maybe a lot of luck.